6, 7, 8.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Quinns. It's Tom.
I know.
Do you fancy a game of the new Terra Mystica Travel Edition?
Tom, that's too small. I was going to ask if you wanted to play my new Kickstarter edition of Jaipur.
Oh, wow, Quinns. That does look amazing, but I do think it's just a little bit too big. If only we had some games that were just the right size.
Well, that would be great, Tom. But where?
In today's video, we're taking a look at 3 games from publisher Flat Out Games. 2020's Calico is going to be looked at by Quinns. I'm taking a peek at 2021's Cascadia, and Ava will do a preview segment on 2022's Verdant.
How did I get stuck with Calico?
Take it away, Quinns!
This game is like a stress headache in a box. I wanted to review Cascadia, son of a When did that kid learn narrative framing? Okay, Calico might be the worst game in this video, but the thing is, Calico is also very good indeed. Calico is a game where 1 to 4 players are sewing quilts, stitching chonky hexagons in clever arrangements to score points, and once you're all done with that, the player with the most points is the winner. But no, how I would describe Calico is that this is a game where 1 to 4 players stare straight down, muttering, "Oh no." And if you ask why, they'll say something totally deranged, like, "I can't attract almond." Here's how it works. At the start of the game, players are dealt 2 tiles. On your turn, you place either tile anywhere on your board and choose one of the 3 tiles in the middle of the table to add to your hand, and then you refresh this selection. That's it. That's everything you do on your turn, which means that you, watching this right now, could sit down at this very table and play the world's worst scoring game of Calico. But that would be embarrassing for both of us, so let me teach you about how you get points. Placed on your board are 3 random design goals that each offer points if you surround them with tiles. So this design goal wants 4 tiles of one type and 2 of another type, and the smaller number here is the points you get if you succeed at this with colours or patterns, and the big number is if you somehow manage to succeed at this goal with colours and patterns. You're also going to get 3 points each time you connect 3 or more like-coloured tiles, and this includes the printed tiles on the edge of your board. But wait, as you're stressing about design goals and also stressing about colours, you mustn't forget to stress about the cats. In each game of Calico, 3 random cats are placed on the table, viewing everyone's quilts like 3 judges on reality TV. And like reality TV, there's always 1 easygoing cat, 1 medium cat, and 1 judgmental cat who frankly can go and take a long walk off a short bookshelf. These cats want you to assemble certain clusters or shapes of the patterns they like, at which point they'll grace your quilt with their presence, earning you points. Honestly, I hate these cats so much. They're so demanding, and you better believe the moment the game is over, they're getting tossed off my quilt. So why do I hate these cats? Why do I describe this game as stressful? It's because every time you place a tile in Calico, you can theoretically be working towards all of these points at once. Your turn in Calico can, and often will, see you enjoying the dollar store satisfaction of placing these chunky tokens in your thick double-layer punch board, as well as the $1 million satisfaction of working towards a design goal and a cat pattern and a color set all at the same time. But that's rare. Really, the most cat-like thing about Calico is that you, as the owner of Calico, are gonna have all these big plans for the fun you're gonna have together, when in reality, Calico is just gonna do what it wants. And also, maybe it hates you. And also, maybe that's kind of why you love it. There are 6 colours of tiles in Calico and 6 different patterns on those tiles for a total of 36 different tiles you might need, but you're only ever holding 2 and you're only ever choosing from 3, which means you are hardly ever in the mid to late game of Calico placing what you want. And seeing an opponent take the 1 tile that you needed brings pain akin to having one of your nose hairs plucked. But listen, while Calico is a very funny game to complain about, I think because the really warm aesthetic clashes so much with how mean the puzzle is, the fact that players in this game are going, "Oh no," is not a sign the game is bad, it's a sign of how this puzzle sinks its hooks into your brain until the only things that matter are buttons and cats. Calico is great. It's smart, it's simple, it's short. There are criticisms of it that I'm going to make now, one small, one big. Small criticism is it's very solitary, it's very much parallel play, and that can put some people off because you really aren't interacting at all. The bigger criticism with Calico is that for a game where all the players are just crunching out desperately for 45 minutes straight, that's the game. It sucks to lose Calico because your friends might have had a couple of lucky tiles they needed that let them complete a couple of big objectives. That's 10 points there, that's 12 points there. Suddenly you've lost and it wasn't your fault. That doesn't feel great considering how hard players work in Calico. But personally, I can look past these problems and I'm going to be keeping Calico because my goodness, the arc of this game is so beautiful. It's an arc as steep as the back of a stretching cat. You have this wildly optimistic and exciting beginning where you're setting up foundations for stuff. You have this impossibly destructive mid-game where with every tile you're placing, you're deciding which of those plans you're going to annihilate. And then you have this really soothing, gentle end game where the game almost plays itself because you're only choosing from 2 tiles in hand and you might only have 1 or 2 spots to place them. I do think I prefer Cascadia though. I think I'm gonna pop over to Tom's place, see how he's doing with his review.
Hi Quins, you might be inside looking after your lovely little cats on their nice little blanket, but me? I'm outside in the wilderness looking for real wildlife. Let's see what we can find. I thought that would be a wrap. Cascadia is the middle sibling of this trilogy, and it too will have you choosing tiles to make a big pattern. Each turn you'll be taking a tile to place in your own area, growing a tapestry of landscapes that will sprawl out and score you points for the largest of each kind, and extra points if you have a bigger landscape than your opponents. But then, before you get comfortable making a nice little landscape that's bigger than your opponents, another layer slips into Cascadia like a well-greased finger probing the You're going to fill each of these landscapes with these animal tokens. This will form a second tapestry overlaid onto the original that's going to score you a bunch more points. Each tile that you slot into your landscape supports a certain kind of animal or animals, and on your turn you're going to take one of these animals and pair it with the tile above it, placing them both immediately into your board. But Cascadia's sneaky little twist here is that not only do these animals score entirely differently from each other, they'll score in different ways each game. But never in a way that's too complicated, mind. These are just variations on a theme. Birds will score if you can draw lines between them, bears score in groups of loners, salmon score wiggly little runs, and elk will form haunted rituals. They're all jostling for your attention and need to go exactly where you probably don't want them. So each game of Cascadia has you analysing the needs of your picky clientele whilst also building a landscape that's just a shade better than that of your opponents. And this on its own is already such a joy to tinker with, analysing these simple components and trying to work out which of the woefully inadequate market options is best for you this round. But the most apparent joy here is that the hemmed-in border of Calico is no longer present. You can place your tiles wherever you please, roaming a landscape entirely of your own creation. So is Calico the stuffy, sealed-in sibling to Cascadia's free-flowing fjords? Not quite. You see, whilst Calico will constrict around you over the course of a game, gently narrowing your options to a fine point, Cascadia has this system of choosing a tile and choosing a wildlife token that means you have endless opportunities of where to put the tile, but only ever 3 of where to put the wildlife token it's paired with. It's tighter on one end, looser at the other, 2 puzzles that are no harder to pass, but knottier in how you can approach solving them. So this is a system that doesn't have the "oh god, burn it to the ground" moment that Calico has in spades, but rather offers you 2 things that can happen on your turn. Either A, you complete your plans exactly as expected and everything slots into place, or B, you create new plans somewhere else on the board, completion time TBC, which sounds a lot like my work life right now. But also skulking around in the back of Cascadia are these pine cones, Mother Nature's very own answer to the humble pineapple. You get these by installing an animal into the habitat that only it can occupy, and they can be spent to take any animal and any tile rather than a predefined pair, or to wipe the slate clean if all the options are truly horrible. But they're also worth a point at the end of the game, and scores in Cascadia can get pretty cozy with one another. So the secret to success here is not to fritter away these pinecone tokens, ruthlessly culling the animal market until the perfect combination arises, but instead to subtly slot these tokens into your landscape as and when you need to, adapting to nature in real time, which is very different to the feeling of, I need this one token or I am financially ruined, that comes up in Calico. To me, this is all of the fun with none of the friction, a game with exactly the right amount of rules, each one perfectly poised to create an experience that's smooth to get into but becomes frightening very quickly, much like the hot tub water slide prototype I've been working on at the moment. And I should also mention that it's excellent solo as well, with a challenge sheet at the back and an incredibly simple to implement solo mode. I previously thought I would only play things solo if they were roll and writes or solo RPGs, but Cascadia has tempted me onto its forest paths multiple times with a nice beverage and some tunes as I work out where to put this eagle. And so that is Cascadia, a joyous little box that you can put in front of almost anyone, a fantastic introduction to the hobby, whilst also offering enough head scratching for point chasing pros. Wow, a real life rat. Isn't nature so beautiful? And speaking of nature, it's time for Ava's time for Verdant. It's time for Ava's Verdant segment.
I am no good at plants, but I am good at jumping into the end of this video and telling you about the new game coming soon from the same publisher as Calico and Cascadia, that's about as accessible, about as pretty, and about as cosily themed. Let's get Verdant. Verdant, provided by Flat Out Games and coming with a long list of designers, is a 1 to 5 player game that is the third part of this sort of series. This one moves the action to a version of your living room that is precisely as gaudy and glamorous as mine would be if I didn't live in rented accommodation, had money for fancy wallpaper, and didn't kill every plant that I come near. Seriously, this died this completely within 1 week of me being given it. I am terrible. Verdant sees you gathering plants, items and wallpaper from a central market that works similarly to Cascadia's. You have to take 2 items, one of them has to be a token and one of them has to be a card. You then take the card that you've placed and put it into the alternating grid of rooms and plants on the table in front of you. Now each plant you take will have a different value of victory points that it's worth, but also a different amount of effort that you have to put in order to look after it. So how exactly do you look after plants? I don't know. Each plant likes a particular type of light, and if you can match this up with the lights that's around the edge of the room cards, that plant gets just a little bit more verdant and gains a token. But a lot of plants need more than 4 verdancy to get fully grown, and there's only 4 edges on a card. So it's not just about placing them correctly. These are plants. You've got to look after them. Do you remember those items I was talking about? Well, some of them, fertiliser, watering cans and trowels, have different options for making your plants happy. Gets them closer to being perfect and complete. And when you do that, you get to do the most satisfying thing in the game. You get to put that plant in a fancy pot. Adding these pots gives you points for the pots and points for the plants. You also, whenever you place into a room, you get points for matching the type of room to the type of plant. Pink rooms like succulents in them, blue rooms like creepers and vines. The orange rooms like weird plants, and I can relate to that, but I prefer the pink and blue because these are like my colours. And these bonuses actually double up if you get a matching coloured item into that room. Pink dog here goes into a pink room. Bonus, double points for having pink stuff next to that room. Although, oh no, I haven't actually done that, so why would I put that dog there? Because the dog's lovely and it's pink. And even that is not the whole story. There's bonuses for variety too, particularly the items, those dogs and shelves and bookcases. They like to be different as well. If you can get a variety of different things in there, then you will get more points. There's a couple of little bonuses for getting variety of plants or variety of rooms. Put it all together and it's a greenhouse full of things to think about. And I've not even mentioned that you've only got one item storage spot, which means that you've got to be really canny with when you take things in order to actually use them in the way you want. And that means that you're not going to be able to get the combos of things that you want, which adds a layer of tension as you wonder whether people are going to take the thing that you need for the perfect place to get the perfect points. So what do we think about Verdant? I think it's really lovely. Of all the games we've looked at here, I think this is the one that understands the subject matter the best and understands the people who love the subject matter the best. There's loads of lovely plants in this deck and they've all got beautiful names that are enjoyable to say out loud. Ficus bonsai, jasmine, chestnut vine, black-eyed Susan vine. What's the story there? Bird of paradise, chenille plant, Norfolk Island pine. Any random selection of cards I pick from this deck sounds like lovely words. And you genuinely have to look after these plants. The process of looking after something every day in different ways and making it be the best it can be. That's what plants are all about. That's why plant people like plants. This gets it. This gets me. I mean, not me. I don't know how to look after a plant. I'm terrible. I don't even know what type of plant it was. Oh, that's worse, isn't it? Not quite as simple, teachable, and rich as Cascadia. And it's not got the same contrast between the pretty exterior and the, like, brutal puzzle that is Calico. By composting in the middle ground, you'd kind of hope that it would be the best game because it's got some of everything, but it ends up being harder to recommend than either of them. On top of that, it's kind of a bit more fiddly than either of those games, with a bit more diving into the rulebook to look for clarifications than you'd really expect. And it's so easy to forget to place verdancy tokens that you feel like you're always underwatering or overwatering things. And like, that's not the vibe that I want to get from a game, because I already get that from killing plants. But you know what? Verdant isn't actually out for another year, so this is just a little micro review to give you a little bit of a flavour of it. Right now, Cascadia is going to be the better choice for most people. It's the easiest to put in front of people and know that it'll go down well. If you like a pot plant though, if you've got the patience, you're not going to go wrong with it. It's solid. And all three of these games are things that I actually want to have in my collection. I don't think they cancel each other out. I think they're all just different enough and just interesting enough that I'm going to keep all three of them. Unless I find out that I actually have to water them regularly and make sure they get the right amount of light, because frankly, I've not been doing that with my board games. Does anyone know if you need to water board games?
Oh, it's incredibly important that you water your board games. This, for example, I won a prize at the local fates for my bumper copy of Gloomhaven, which I grew a few years ago. However, I've been neglecting to water my copy of Frosthaven, and it's just not. It's incredibly important. How did you get in here?
So, that's a wrap on my first ever review-ish thing on the Shut Up and Sit Down YouTube channel. How exciting. In case you don't know, I'm Ava Foxfort. I've been working with the gang for a couple of years now, doing podcasts and streams and writing. You might want to check out our podcast if you haven't already. Give them a try with your ears. I've also been on a couple of videos already. I've kind of snuck myself in there. Did a little audio bit for Wingspan, which was one of Quinn's reviews. And you can also see me on the Christmas gift guide telling you a little bit about Christmas and what you should get for people you love. Anyway, please never, ever buy me a pot plant. And I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.
Right, I am back from reviewing Calico. Next up, Tom will be reviewing Cascadia.
I've already done Cascadia, Quinns.
Oh. Ava now with...
She's already done Verdant.
Oh.
It's now time for the outro segment. Thank you for watching this Shut Up and Sit Down video. You can find our other videos somewhere over here, and you can click on those and watch them right away. Also, have you considered listening to our fantastic podcast? It comes out every week these days. Thanks for watching.
We did a Christmas feature with the latest podcast.
We're done.
Is it?
It's the end of the video now.
Did I mess
I thought you were professional!